Hello and welcome to another exciting video in Mathland. Today we're going to do hyperbolas, graphing from an equation. Alright, I've already got an equation here. I've kind of mapped it out a little bit, and we want it to look like this formula where h and k represents the center of our hyperbola, and a represents the distance horizontally from our center, and then b will represent the distance we go vertically from our center point. Okay, so what I've done here is I've grouped my x terms together and I've grouped my y terms together and I've moved this constant to the other side here. Okay, now I'm going to pick up from here and I'm going to just focus on my x terms here and try to factor something out here. I want to get it to a binomial squared, which means I'd like to break down these coefficients to see if we can get smaller coefficients so we can do complete the square. So I'm going to factor out a 9. And then I'd have an x squared minus 4x. I'm going to complete the square here, which if you remember, to complete the square, we need to divide this x term by 2, and that would be negative 2, and then we would square that, and that would go there, which is a positive 4. Okay, I want to do the same thing with the y here. I'm going to factor out something. Remember, I never want to lead to the parentheses with a negative here. So I at least want to factor out a negative 1. And it looks like that's the only thing these two have in common. So I'm going to factor out a negative 1 and have a y squared plus 6y. I'm going to complete the square here. I'm going to divide this y term by 2. That will give me 3. Square that goes right there, and that becomes a 9. Okay, equals negative 18. Now this is the one step that usually trips up a lot of students. What we need to do now is, whatever we added over here, we need to add on this side. So we added a 4 when we completed the square here. We didn't add just a 4, we added a 9 times 4 because that's within the parentheses and 9 is multiplied on the outside. So we're going to do 9 times 4 is 36, and I'm going to add that to the other side. So essentially I added a 36 over here. Whatever I do on the left side, I have to do it on the right side. Same thing over here. I added a 9, but not only a 9, I added a 9 times a negative 1. So that is a negative 9. If I added a negative 9 over here, I have to add it over here. Okay, so now I've got a total on this side, which is actually just 9. Okay, and then over here I've got 9 times, now since I completed the square, I've got my x, and then whatever I broke this down to, whenever I cut that in half, that's going to be the term that goes here. So x minus 2, and that came from this right here when I cut it in half. Okay, minus 1, and then this one is y, when I cut that in half, my y term, it was a 3, so I'm going to do plus 3. This is squared. This is squared. I completed the square, so now it's a binomial squared. Okay, now it's sort of looking like this. I just need a 1 over on this side, and I need some denominators over there. So, to get a 1 on the right side of the equation, I need to get rid of this 9, or actually turn it into a 1. So I'm going to divide this 9 by itself. So I'm going to divide that by 9. Whatever I do on one side, I got to do it on the other. So I'm going to break this down, reduce that, that's going to be 1. Reduce this, well, it's not going anywhere, it's just going to be 9. So our final equation, what we're seeing here is x minus 2 squared over 1. And I know that 1 doesn't have to be there, but it's good to help us see what we're doing when we're graphing this. Minus a y plus 3 squared over 9 equals 1. Okay, so now we've got our a's and our b's. We've got the negative in front of the y term, so that means our hyperbola is going to open up side to side. And I think of it as if this negative is in between them, it looks like this, like a little fat face. Chubby cheeks and a mouth. So this is going to determine our distance where we go up and down, but not just that number, it's the square root of that. So it's going to be 3 units up and 3 units down from the center. And this one is going to determine where we go side to side, okay, because it's under the x term, side to side, under the y term, up and down. So square root of 1, that's going to be 1. We're going to move 1 unit to the left and to the right, 3 units up and down from our center. Now remember, our center, these guys right there. So we can label that now. Our center is going to be the one with the x component, is the one that goes there, is 2. And then with the y component, remember, change those signs from there. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph that. Let's get another piece of paper. I'm going to put the center right there so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we've got, let's try putting it plain here. Our center was 2, -3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Boom, there's our center right there. And then we're going to go and in the left direction, left and right direction, 1 unit. So 1 unit over, boop. 1 unit over here, boop. Okay, and then in our y direction, we're going to go up 3 and down 3. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, so we know that it opens to the left and to the right because the negative was in front of the y. So I know it's going to go out this way, open up to the left and to the right. But I need my asymptotes to help me figure this out. So what I need to do here, graphing is fairly easy here. The tricky part is finding the asymptotes. So I'm going to draw a horizontal line through my point, my highest point and lowest point, and a vertical line through my, to my vertex, or vertice points. Okay, and then to draw the asymptote, I'm going to get a straight edge and align it with the corners and the center. My asymptote's going to go right through that, boom, 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 right through my center. Okay, and this one is going to go right through my center here. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so it opens to the left and to the right. And I've got this going on. This is my vertex here. Going to kind of follow that shape there. With a little swoopy. Whoop. Kind of curvy. Okay, there we go. Now we can label our focus as well. Okay, we're going to get to the focus. Let's see, let's go this way. So the foci is on this side and on that side. Remember, they eat the foci. The ellipse has the foci in the middle. The hyperbola and parabola have it inside. Okay, so let's figure out what's going on here. Our center, if you recall, was 2, -3. Now, to find our foci, we use the formula C equals the square root of our, let's see, let me get the other page here, of our larger denominator minus our smaller denominator. So it's going to be the b squared minus a squared, okay? Our b squared here is the larger one, so minus a squared was the 1. Okay, so square root of, no, this is plus, sorry, plus, boop, 10, sorry, I was in another mode here for the ellipse. Okay, so hyperbola, we want to add these together. It doesn't matter which order you put them in. You're going to equal this square root of 10. Okay, so I know that it's going to be on the transverse axis here. Okay, so this is going to go, the y component of our center will stay the same. What's going to change is the x component. So I'm going to adjust the x component from the center. So I've got 2 plus or minus square root of 10, and the y component stays the same. So there we are. The foci, they're going to hang out over here. You can use the calculator to figure out those exact units over here when you graph it. But just remember that the x components change, the y stays the same. Now for the asymptote, we're going to use another formula here. So I'm going to put it up here, y equals k plus or minus b over a x minus h. Okay, so this is our slope right here. Slope. So that's how far we went up and how far we went over, and that's how we drew our line, but now we have to actually figure it out. So I'm going to plug that in. Y equals h and k. Remember, that's from our center. So we've got a negative 3. I'm going to split this in two equations, plus 3 over 1. That was our b over a. And then x plus 3. And then down here, I'm going to do the other version. Y equals negative 3 minus 3 over 1. And x plus 3. Okay, oops. There we go. Okay, and then we'll pick this up with part 2 in a bit.